Hi, my name is HANITA SHRIE, and today I'm going to be presenting about xylem, phloem, and water potential. So, xylem has two general functions, where it is to move water and minerals from roots to the leaves and to give internal support to trees. Xylem has two conducting cells, vessel elements and tracheids. Vessel elements are placed end-to-end to form a hollow pipeline from roots to the leaves. They are cylindrical, tubular shaped, and they are along with perforation plates at each end. Tracheids, however, the ends overlap with adjacent tracheids, and the pits allow water to pass from one tracheid to the next. It is an elongated, narrow tube and tapered at both ends. Moving on to phloem. Phloem, the main function of phloem is to transport organic nutrients. Two important cells in phloem are the sieve tube members and companion cells. Sieve tube members are the conducting cells of phloem, whereas for xylem, the conducting cells are vessel elements and tracheids. So now, sieve tube members have end wall. The end walls have sieve plates. Sieve plates are connecting and transporting tissues in plants. They allow food to pass through the phloem tubes. Sieve tube members have numerous pores and they lack nuclei. Companion cells are very important because they provide nutrients to sieve tube members and they have nuclei. Without companion cells, the sieve tube members would die and resulting in the death of a plant. Now moving on to water potential. Water moves passively from the area of higher water potential to the area of lower water potential. Water moves passively, passively meaning it does not need energy. Water potential involves two things, water pressure and osmotic pressure. Now what is water potential? Water potential is the tendency for water to move. Moving on to pressure potential. Pressure potential is the effect that pressure has on water potential. It's a bit confusing, I know, but basically pressure potential is the pressure exerted due to the entry of water against the cell wall. So as we know, water enters a plant cell by diffusion, and then there is a pressure buildup against the cell wall. The cell becomes turgid. Water moves across a membrane from higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. The higher the water pressure, the higher the water potential, meaning where pressure is high, water potential is higher. So the tendency for water to move to this place with the higher pressure is higher. Osmotic potential. You know osmosis? When water moves across the plasma membrane when one side has a higher amount of dissolved solutes. However, solutes restrict the movement of water because water has the tendency to engage in molecular interactions with solutes. For example, hydrogen bonding. Water moves from an area of lower solute concentration to an area of higher solute concentration. H2O enters plant cells by osmosis. High solute concentration means the water pressure increases inside the cell. When pressure potential inside the cell balances osmotic pressure outside the cell, the flow of water in and out is said to be isotonic, meaning it is the same. Now, pressure potential that increases due to osmosis is called turgor pressure. You know, osmosis water moves inside the cell, vacuoles swells, and pushes against the cell wall. This is called turgor pressure. Turgor pressure, the main function of this pressure is to maintain turgidity of the bodies of plants.
Welcome back everyone. In this second part, I'm NURLISA RAIHANA will insist you on water transport in tank mechanism. So, first thing first, you used to remember what mechanism for water transport? Yeah, it is the xylem. Xylem vessel with the reinforced lignified walls and low resistance from movement of water, etc. And you probably learned that the water moves from root to the stem and lastly to the leaves. And How does the water moves into the root? Yeah, this is called the root pressure. How did this happen? Now, basically, the root pressure is the result of the solute concentration difference results in the continuous movement of water into the root. This is what creates the root pressure. During the day, the root pressure is not so obvious because water is being drawn out of the leaves. While at night, since the process is a little bit slow, so water continues to enter the roots because, it's the root pressure is force. But the evaporation will slow down at the surface of the leaves. This will result in a phenomenon called guttation, where water is forced out of the endings along the edge of the leaves. For instance, the morning dew, water that enters xylem must be transported against gravity to all parts of the plant. Since it is against gravity, it's an easy task, especially for tall trees like redwood, yellow moranti, and manara in summer. To overcome this problem, we have this mechanism like called cohesion tension model of xylem transport. This cohesion tension model describes how water and mineral travel upward without the expenditure of energy by the plant. To put it simply, we don't need energy to transport water against the gravity. So you probably forgot there is a higher potential in the soil than in the plant itself. So all water moves into the roots by osmosis and create this root pressure by the solid concentration difference, which is very helpful for the upward movement, but it's not enough to reach the leaves yet, especially the tall trees I mentioned it. To overcome this problem, we have this process called transpiration. Transpiration is a phenomenon that explains how water can completely resist activity and reach all parts of the plant. For transpiration, we'll focus on the top of the tree when you notice that the water molecule escaping from the spongy material into the air through the opening of the stomata. How does it come out in the tree? So, in chemistry, we learned that water molecules are polar and bind together by hydrogen bond. In transpiration, that is called cohesion and addition. Cohesion is the ability of water molecules to stay linked in a chain to each other, while addition is the ability to stick to the wall of xylem. That is how the water molecule can escape through the stomata opening in a chain shape. This cohesion and addition facilitate the evaporation of water at the leaves, which exerts tension that pulls on the chain of water molecules. Transpiration is the constant tugging and pulling of water column from the top due to evaporation. As transpiration occurs, water column are pulled upward against through the roots. That's me. Of the 100% of water taken up, only about 10% of the water is being used for metabolism and growth of the plant, while 90% of water is eventually lost at the leaves due to transpiration and evaporation and all the process that occurs in it. The evaporation of large amount of water from the plant surfaces dissipates heat and explain how they cool themselves.
Each stoma, which is a small pore in leaf epidermis, is bordered by guard cell. First, the opening of stoma. When water enters the guard cell through osmosis, the potassium ion will accumulate within guard cell through active transport. Then, turbo pressure will increase and stoma open. So, as we all know, carrier photosynthesis requires abundant supply of water. When water enters the guard cell, stomata will remain open and allowing carbon dioxide to enter. Another interesting observation is hydrogen ions will accumulate outside the guard cell when the stoma opens. Now, let us look at the guard cell. The guard cells are attached to each other at their ends, and that the inner wall is thicker than the outer wall. When the water enters the guard cell, a guard cell radial expansion is restricted because of the cellulose microfiber in the wall, but lengthwise expansion of the outer wall is possible. When the water enters the guard cell, they will buckle out from the region of their attachment, then stoma open. Next, the closing of stomata. So, when the water and potassium ions exceed the guard cell, turbo pressure will decrease and cause the stoma to close. When stomata close, carbon dioxide cannot enter, and this may cause many plants are unable to photosynthesize efficiently. The blue light component of sunlight has been found to regulate the opening and closing of stomata. Abscisic acid ABA, which is produced by cells in wilting leaf, can also cause stoma to close. Other factors that influence the opening and closing of stomata also include temperature, humidity, and water stress.
Hello and good morning to everyone. Today we are going to learn about organic nutrient transport, which is a transport mechanism in plant. So, the introduction to the topic is the role of the phloem, the case study of the radioactive carbon 14, and the third integrated flow model of phloem transport. Firstly, we will learn about the role of phloem. First, it is typically found external to the xylem in vascular tissue. Secondly, it makes up the inner bark for the plant with smoothing tissue. Thirdly, it does not move exclusive upward or downwards. The fourth, it does not define by gravity. And the fifth, phloem travel in any direction from the source to the sink. And the sixth, it is one of the reasons why the plant die when the tree is killed. Next, radioactivity and traces study with carbon 14. So firstly, it's confirmed that phloem transports organic nutrient from source to the sink. And the second is that the liquid travelling in a phloem is mostly water and sucrose with other substances. So last but not least, we will learn about the pressure flow model of phloem transport. So it starts with photosynthesizing leaves make sugar and is actively transported from cells in the leaf mesophyll in the sieve tubes of the phloem. Next, the active transport, loading of sugar into phloem is dependent on an electrochemical gradient established by a proton pump. Next, sugar is co-transported with hydrogen ions that are moving down the concentration gradient. And the high concentration of sugar in the sieve tubes cause water to flow in by osmosis, cause an increase in positive pressure. Next, the sugar, which is sucrose, solution under massive pressure at the source, is forced to move by bark flow to areas of lower pressure at the sink, which is roots. When sugar arrives at the root, it is transported out of the sieve tube into the root cells. Then, the sugar is used for cellular respiration or other metabolic processes in the root cell. The high concentration of sugar in the root cell causes the water to follow by osmosis, where the latter it is reclaimed by the xylem tissue. Last but not least is the additional info from the pressure flow model of phloem transport. So firstly, it's proving that was start at the source and at the sink. It explains translocation. The step highlight where the pressure flow model got its name. The phloem moving at a velocity of 1 meter per hour. And last but not least, although leaves are generally the source, but the storage root and the stem, such as carcass, potatoes, beets, can provide much needed sugar during winter or period of dormancy.